Here she is, global intuitive guide, sound healer, best-selling author, musician, and sexy psychic to the stars, the one and only host of the Angelica Perman Show, Angelica Perman.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angelica Perman, and I know what it's like to go through heartache and loss, connect with your intuition and your spiritual practice to manifest your dreams. And I'm here to support you. And today's show is all about one of my favorite subjects, past lives. So today I'm going to be sitting with my co-host from ModPod Studio, JD Cargill, and he's going to come in a few moments. We're going to chat it up about this subject. I'm also going to be sharing a little bit about sound healing and do a very special little crystal bowl sound healing meditation and a reading for the week. So you definitely want to stay all the way to the end to see and hear all of that. All right, everybody. So what I want to talk about is past lives. And for me, I was raised in a really open household where I was shown a lot of different paths, and I got to go through many different spiritual practices. And I found out about past lives when I was a little girl. And at first, I really didn't believe in it at all. I just thought maybe this is just an excuse for not taking responsibility for the set of circumstances that you have in your life, and that it's just an illusion. But later in life, I started to study it, and I would have spontaneous recalls of past lives when I would meet people or I would spend time with people, and I would see it. I started to see these things, and I practiced many years developing my intuition. And when I got Reiki, that started to open up my spiritual and intuitive gifts. And then I became a professional intuitive guide. And so throughout all of this journey, all of my intuitive abilities started to become more and stronger, and all of these kinds of things would happen where I would have visions and I would hear messages and I would sense energy. And when I would meet somebody, if I had that instant affinity with them, that they felt like they were familiar to me, it would put me in this state where I would see these images. And so if you meet somebody and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I know you, and you know you don't. You've never seen them before. They're not famous. They're nobody that you could possibly know, but you feel it inside. Chances are you've had past lives with them. So I'm going to invite JD on now in my bedroom studio, and he's going to come into bed with me. Hi, JD. Come on in.
Hello, Angelica. Hello. Oh, hi.
Oh, here comes trouble.
I love what you've done with the place.
Thank you.
Like my body just fit right in.
Oh, yes, it did. I love having you here. So anyway, we're going to talk about past lives. And Mariah, I'd love to see you too, if you can pop on.
Great
because
topic.
I'd love to talk with you. Hi, Mariah. Our
Hello.
engineer. And so what we're going to talk about is something that it's a little, in a lot of ways, people made fun of it. But one of the biggest people that came onto the scene talking about it first that was well known was Shirley MacLaine.
Okay.
Yeah. And she wrote all these books about it. And people thought she was a kook. Johnny Carson at the time, that had the Tonight Show, would make jokes about her.
Really?
And it became like a joke about all her past lives, because I think some of them were well known. And then she described why she had so much anger. She had a lot of anger that was just like intrinsically in her, and she couldn't understand where it was coming from, not just her childhood or her life. And so she went on these really amazing spiritual quests and went to different countries and did a lot of different practices, and apparently had extraterrestrial contact and downloads, and talks a lot about her past lives. And I got to meet her, and it was really cool. I'd always wanted to meet her, and I was living in Malibu at the time. And I woke up in the morning with an intuitive message. Today, you're going to meet Shirley MacLaine.
Wow.
And I was like, that's so random. And I was like, okay. So I go over to the Coffee Bean before I go to work at the Malibu Shaman, where I did readings and I managed the store. And I hear her voice first. And I'm like that, right? And then I see her in the line, and she probably thought I was staring at her because she's famous, but I was like, oh my God, I'm so psychic. And I know that I was supposed to read her today. And if I tell her that, she's definitely going to be like, you're a kook. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure well, because I would imagine that many people come up to her and go, oh my God, this is my psychic experience and blah, blah, blah. So she was standing in line and then she looked over at me and I said hi to her and she was like, hi. We had a little chat and that was it. That was it. I didn't go really deep into anything, but I was like, this is so cool. And so what that experience was for me was a couple things. One, I'd always wanted to meet her. So I feel like it's a manifestation of that, but also to support my intuitive gifts so that they were verifiable. And this is what I want to support everybody on. Don't just take my word for it. You know, Dr. Brian Weiss is an expert in past life regression. And there's this book, JD, called Many Masters, Many Lives that I read. It's fabulous. I highly, highly recommend it.
Many Masters, Many Lives.
Yes.
Okay.
And this man was head of the Miami-Dade Hospital for Psychiatric Mental Health. And so he had this big job and he had someone come in that had all of these fears. Okay. And so phobias. And he thought that hypnosis would help her. And so what he would do is he would do in the session, like lead her into hypnosis and count back to the earliest memories of her childhood. And then all of a sudden she started to go back before that spontaneously and go back to other timelines where she was other people and died by these phobias that had been ruling her life and that she couldn't do much. She had like 100 phobias. And this was spontaneous and so fascinating. And he was like, what the heck? Because this was way beyond what he'd ever done before. And then in between her life, after he would lead her through it and she would face her phobia and then kind of understand that she got over it by being here in this life, she would go in between lives and this masters would communicate about life, about spirituality and give all these messages. And he documented this. So it was amazing. And then Oprah later had him on her old TV show and he hypnotized America. So which is, I can't even believe she had him on the show and did that. It's such a different subject. So anyway, if you're interested, check him out. And that book is fantastic. And he offers regression.
What was his name again?
Dr. Brian Weiss.
Dr. Brian Weiss.
Many Masters, Many Lives. And he has these guided meditations you can purchase. And there may be some free ones online as well. And what they do is they give you light meditation, you relax, and then you go back before this life. And so let's say you wanted to work on something, you had a phobia, you had an insecurity, you were afraid of heights or had relationship issues.
Snakes.
You had an issue with a person to go, let me go back and see if I can remember a life where this person and I were and something bad happened with us.
To try to understand that root cause of the phobia.
Yes. And so by leading yourself through this own process, it's great if you can go to a regressionist. I've done past life regression as well with people. It's fantastic, but you can do it yourself. And so then what happens?
So the word regression, past life regression means that in your current life, you're regressing to a former life. That's really where this fear is coming from. That's really where this phobia is. Okay.
Right. And it's through hypnosis, guided hypnosis. And so what they have you do is go into a relaxed state, count backwards, and then you go into a neutral place. And then you look down at your feet and down at your legs and see if you see different shoes, different clothing. And then you'll see the earth and then you'll see the area. And for me, it was extremely vivid when I would do this. And I, at the time, had stage fright. I was raised in the theater. I was an actress. And when I go into auditions or I would be in front of big crowds, I was a wreck. And I found out that a lot of actors, well-known actors like Laurence Olivier, had terrible stage fright. Really? Would throw up every time before his performances. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Let me do this hypnotherapy and this past life regression. Boom. I went back to a time when I was an actor and where actors played women. And I went on the stage, had my performance. And back in the day, there were really rough places, the theater. It wasn't like she and chic like it is now. It was like the people, the crowd, and they would bring fruit and rotten fruit and throw them at you if they didn't like it. And I remembered being thrown at like tomatoes and old fruit and being so pissed off that I went backstage and I trashed backstage, super angry. And then I was like, oh my God, that fear of being judged, of being heard, of being shamed was so severe from that past life. After I did that, I had no more stage fright. So I can do the show, I can go in front of crowds, and I can improv and just show up, and it was gone.
So during your past life regression hypnosis, you got back to a place, you were able in this state of mind
to go back to another lifetime.
Memory of a theater day back when you were a male.
Yes, playing a female in England. And the theater, I smelled it, I saw the people, everything was very
so you're
vivid.
Just saying this to the who
no, this was through one of the self-hypnosis tapes that I got that you get, and then you
I want to do this.
Oh yeah, it's so cool, Mariah. And so especially if someone isn't guiding you, you're just doing it yourself, there's no suggestion from anyone. But if you have someone like myself that knows how to do it, I talk first, I read the person, I go, I think there's a past life with this situation. Let's go back and let's see what we discover.
Can you do Mariah?
I could do it.
I think we should. I would watch it. I better
I feel like I already
engineer, so in case she goes somewhere, the show can go on.
I feel like I already know like two of mine.
Oh, okay. So tell me what's one of them that you feel like that comes out.
Why is my heart beating? I never get like this. Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh, because it's so personal.
Yeah, I guess. Like, I feel like it's almost like a subconscious reaction. Like, I don't know why my heart's racing, but like.
Okay, so just have a nice deep breath. And share this because this might support somebody out there.
I thought she was saying you were Cher. I was like, Cher! I'm like, how could you have your past life? She's still having this life.
I'm Cher. I'm the early years.
Early years.
Oh. That's a whole nother story to do that. But okay, so what was your past life?
Like, I feel like I've had these thoughts and thought these things, but I'm like, I feel like if I say it, people are just going to think I'm crazy because I really believe that I was a part of the Salem witch trials. And
we did talk about that in other shows.
Yeah. And it's not just because like, oh my gosh, I have this like obsession with witches and I just want to believe. It's a really crazy like energy pull that I have to Salem that I've always had to like themes that fall in line with that. And
can you give an example or two?
I'm like, well,
you named your cat Salem, so we know this.
Okay, so that's part of it, right?
Well, when I was a little kid, like I was very vocal. My mom has so many stories about weird, like I was one of those kids that you were maybe afraid of because like I was like showing like psychic tendencies and seeing things and
oh boy
having dreams and like shifting within my dreams like as a kid. I didn't know what was going on because I would just wake up and my mom was like terrified.
Oh, that's too bad, honey. That she didn't. Well, because some people are really afraid of these things because they don't understand it. So part of what I want to do is demystify this.
Yeah.
So what was your did you have an actual memory of Salem where you could visually see it or feel it?
Yeah. And a lot of I remember in high school we had to read The Crucible.
Oh yeah.
And I remember like it like was so personal to me. And I have my own memories of like Salem at the time and like things that I was doing. And I mean, it feels weird to say I was burned at the stake, but I'm like 99.9%.
Right.
My biggest fear is burning.
Okay. That's like, that is so intense.
Fire freaks me out.
Here's the truth. A lot of women have been burned. I think it was a few million. It's a Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's a Holocaust. It's a very, very big thing that happened. So it wasn't just in Salem, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. It was all over Europe as well.
Yes, all over Europe.
The systemic sort of genocide of anybody felt to be a witch, or anybody felt to be part of a
or they just wanted to get rid of somebody.
I felt like a lot of times it was an excuse. Just
women who didn't fall in line in the patriarchy
exactly
were gonna be witches and get killed. Which like
if they were pagan, which meant they were connecting with nature, and just doing anything out in nature
Mm-hmm.
with the moon, anything like that, or they were making herbs and they were the medicine people.
Right.
Well, you piss somebody off and that's it,
Oh,
right?
you're a witch. Yeah.
So I also had a very vivid memory being in Salem in this life with my roommate Carol. I went and did an event with her called Float, where we did a sound bath, and then we went there and I talked about it on a former show, but I'll say briefly, I knew the town. I got there and I knew the town.
Yeah.
It was extremely vivid to me. And there was like this very weird portal for me where I kept being drawn to certain places, and we kind of lost each other. There was a group and there was like a circular thing that was happening. We ended up in the cemetery where these people were buried. And I sat outside. I didn't want to go look at all the graves. I was like, a little too much for me. But what was cool is that in this life, I could practice spirituality and healing and not have the fear. So I didn't have fear feelings,
Right.
but I felt like the overlay of this other energy and the triumph of being there now, versus I was terrified and I wanted to run to the hills while I was there.
Right. Yeah.
And so ideally you can get to that place that if there's something that was from another life, you shifted in this life, you face your fears, and then you're not necessarily going to have that.
Right.
And some of the lifetimes may be known and some are unknown. I have one that's known. And for me, when that became revealed, it was super powerful. And I don't really want to say what it is, because it's honestly, when you say you're a well-known person from the past, it's like Shirley MacLaine. Everybody's like, oh yeah, of course you were so-and-so. It's not really important that it's known, except if it can support you in this life. And for me, all these people from that life came into my life, the issues, what I've been dealing with. It was so potent, the information.
Well, who was it? I'm on the edge
I know,
of my
I wanna
seat.
know.
I want to know.
And as I said, I'm not sure that I want to say who it was.
Is it
but-
Marilyn?
No.
Can you tell us what era?
It was England. I'll just say that.
That's-
And Scotland. And basically what I
she
learned,
was my favorite queen.
what basically happened for me in this life is that I was able to overcome those issues and remember all the people. So when I watch films about it and read about it, it's all very familiar to me. And it answers every question for why I have these issues, right? So for you, I'm gonna go over to you for a second.
Okay.
Jamie. Oops, my little headset came off. What
Mary Queen is
what happened?
Okay.
Do you think that happened in your past life?
So, well, I also want to hear your other one, Mariah, because I know you said that you had two. So we'll go in a circle. We're taking turns.
Well, you go first,
I'll go
and then
first.
we'll go back to her.
Okay, I don't have the strong sort of. I'm listening to the wording you're using when you describe it, so I can see if what I'm feeling is similar.
Well, let's just talk about it and see what it is.
For me, it is an uncanny and intense attraction to a certain period of filmmaking.
Oh,
and I
interesting.
love this period
could see
so
that.
much that I feel like, and it's not just all period, because there's a lot of periods I don't feel connected to, but you know that's what's coming. This era of the Gilded Age in the turn of the century.
I just saw the show. It's fantastic.
I was glued to that show.
Me
I
too.
can watch it multiple times because I can watch it once with the sound up, then I can watch it just to enjoy the set design. It feels, I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like that era is home to me.
I understand. I feel the same way
Feeling
with
of
that
home.
particular show, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, it took me right back.
And
I
that's
guess.
the feeling, is like, does it feel familiar to you?
Right.
Do you feel at home when you're there? Do you have an aversion to a
Mhm.
place or a time? You know, where you're like, oh, I don't want to watch any movies about that. I'm freaked out about that country. That's another sign that something might be there for
Yeah.
you. But to have these awakenings and understandings that there's more than one life, what basically this was taken out of the Bible. The Bible has many different versions. And one of the things that I like to think about is the passage that says, my Father has many mansions. And to me, that means multiple dimensions, but it also can mean past lives. But there is information, and I don't have the quote right with me now, but that if you think about it, why would the church want to discuss this? Because if this is our only life, right?
You're more controllable.
Yeah.
Because everything's on the line.
Right. Everything's on the line. Where in other cultures, they're like, well, I have this life. I'm going to come back. maybe I was an animal and I moved up to a human being. then I'm
Buddhism
gonna-
believes in reincarnation, right? Is
Right.
reincarnation the same thing as past lives?
Yes, reincarnation and past lives are the same thing. And so the Hindu philosophy
Oh.
does as well, and other Asian philosophies do, and natives do as well.
Is it always human to human, or could you come back
No.
as a bird?
Very-
Well, I believe that we can move through all the different expressions of God and as human beings, as animals. Now, for people to come back as an animal is an interesting subject.
Mhm.
Because I do think that is possible, but that's actually not really the point of our evolution. The
Okay.
point of the evolution is that we become all things and that we grow in our consciousness, because apparently most animals, only a few mammals have this, they're not aware of themselves in the same way that we are. And so that
Right.
awareness grows past animal
Yes.
consciousness, right?
Some animals, pigs and dolphins, that have
Yeah.
some
Yes, they have some.
self-awareness,
They have some.
they've been tested that they can look at something in a mirror. That's how you know. You put a sticker on a dolphin, it will go over to a self-reflective surface and look to see where the sticker is.
Oh,
on
that's
its body.
amazing. Right. So
Monkeys,
they have this
monkeys do that too,
self-awareness.
right?
Yes.
Monkeys?
Yes.
Monkeys are very self-aware.
Right. So that self-awareness comes through the evolution
Right.
of beings, and that the whole point of this is to ascend to be one with God eventually, not have to reincarnate anymore. And so the term ascension, which is what a lot of people are talking about these days in the new age and spiritual communities, ascending, is moving past our limitations, our karma, the cause and effect of our past lives, and moving out of this human condition to a higher state of consciousness, a God consciousness, and then not having to come back into the physical body, being a guide and being non-physical.
So if we're killing it on life, this might be it. I might go be one with God.
Might be
after
the
this.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, because I feel like I've had enough change in one life
Right,
to
right,
have
right.
lived several lives.
Right.
In this one life.
And
So,
I relate to that.
yeah.
Some people actually are like, this is my last life. And for me, I'm
Mhm.
like, I kind of hope it is my last life. That has been my intention. So I live every moment. Is there something I need to learn? Is there
Mhm.
something I need to clear with this person, so that A, it's corrected, it's at
Mhm.
the best, highest level of energy between us?
Mhm.
And is there some karmic payment that I need to make, or someone needs to make to me? And so here's how you know. When you are drawn to a person and you
Mhm.
need to spend time with them, like us.
Right.
This was such a good, amazing connection. And then this show, I feel like this is our karma. And I actually feel like, and it's positive karma for both of us and for Mariah. I'm going to speak for you. I feel like it's positive karma. To do this show,
Sure,
to
yourself.
do something where we're bringing consciousness and awareness and unity out into the world
Mhm.
together. So perhaps if we did a group regression, we might find another time where we were repressed.
All right.
We
Oh,
were oppressed and we
tracks.
were repressed. And so in this life, we're like, oh no, he's going to be a gay man and be a drag queen and be a communicator in Hollywood, and then share about all of these beautiful unity consciousness beliefs and support. And that Mariah's going to come out and be bi and non-binary. Yes.
Not
That-
non-binary,
no,
just
sorry.
bi-pan. Yeah.
Bi-pan, sorry. And share in all the ways
Like
that
you can
do.
be non-binary. That's fine with her. Hopefully you like
Okay.
she, her.
And then myself being a person that I was always this person.
Mhm.
I was always spiritual. I was always kind of on the cutting edge of these things and never fit in any real box. I worked in corporate America a little bit, but I was always this. So
Right.
for me, my lesson isn't to overcome oppression necessarily in this way. It's just to be an orator, communicator, and supporter to people with music and healing, right? However, I have other issues, and they're the things that you come up against as a loop over and over in relationships and situations, and you just find you've hit a wall. You hit a wall, and you're like, shit, there it is again. That's where you know that you have a karma, you have a past life, and you have something you need to complete. And so the other part of that is a sacred contract. So back to us, having a sacred contract is apparently when you're in it, and before we come into this life, we choose our parents. We choose a lot of the things so that we're going to line up with the time of coming here. I know that's a whole concept. That's a whole
That
concept.
totally tracks.
Right. And that so that we're going to learn certain things
Yeah, I
in
see.
that lineage, right? but also meet up with the people that are going to be born in a certain area, and we're going to meet up together. And the sacred contract is 3 of us, we're going to meet right during the pandemic, which is huge. So maybe we were in a lifetime where there was another pandemic and we were oppressed and we didn't get to speak out and we lost our voices. And in this life, we're like, we're going in and we're going to do it differently. And we're going to move through that pattern and have it be positive. But if it's another situation where a parent of origin or a lover or something, and you just hit it up again and again, where you have conflict in this certain area, like people that are very rebellious and have a hard time with authority figures. That's a big one.
Gangsters from the past.
A lot of them, gangsters, outlaws. I have a very significant past life where,
or maybe like a Joan of Arc type,
around
or
that.
someone who bucked the system,
right,
but wasn't an outlaw. I mean,
well, in this lifetime that I was going to mention, that I was a lover of an outlaw, and I was a rancher's daughter, and I found my photo online. It just came to me. It was so clear.
Have you seen a photo of your former life?
Yeah.
Wow,
Can we show
couple
it?
of them.
Wild.
Can you show it?
I prefer not to, because you
okay.
know what? The reason why I'm not bringing these up is there's something about it that I'm feeling. I want to keep that personal for me.
I trust your instincts.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm just sharing them as a overlay of how it's helpful to me. It helped me with the person. It helped me with why I'm here in this area. It helped me to see the patterns. It helped me to see there was a separation there through death and an incompletion, and why I feel like so drawn to this person and why I want to help them in a certain way. But also there was, a class difference, and that issue kind of comes up as well. It was really interesting. Where they were raised in more of a street gangster type of way. And I was raised with like educated beatniks and like cultured people. It was like really different if you look at caste in that way. So, all right, Mariah, here's what I want to ask you, more than knowing your second life that you're going to share.
Though I do
want
want to know that too.
About an issue, a loop that you feel, and maybe it will lead into the second life, that you're dealing with, that feels unresolved, a fear, a concern. Is there anything that you're like, and maybe again, you could share the life. I just want to I want to connect it to something you're learning and overcoming.
My issues with the patriarchy have been consistent through each of my past lives that I remember, and this one. And
interesting.
It's like a daily thing for me.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
All right, here's one I got for you.
Okay.
See if this aligns, because I know this is one of mine. Suffragette.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Suffragette, right? I had a total recall. Was with a girlfriend. She's in the kitchen and she was standing there and talking to me, and I'm like, all of a sudden, me and that whole tribe of girls that we were all friends with, all suffragettes. I was like, we were suffragettes. She's like, damn right we were.
Yes. Okay. See, it's happening again. My heart's racing.
Okay. That's an indication that this is like some truth that's coming for you.
Yeah.
Right. So the suffragette.
That was one of my questions. What she just answered was, how do you know when you're, because obviously we can't consciously remember these things because our little baby brains were born, and mine was, 45
we have the veil
ago.
of forgetfulness when we're born. Our consciousness is wiped clean for a purpose.
Why?
And here's the thing. So we come in and we're like, who are these people? What are we doing here? If we knew every single thing that happened in our past life, first of all, we wouldn't choose in the same way. We might choose out of fear. We might choose out of, this is how I normally would do it.
And if you knew for sure, you just kill yourself. You're like, this one's not working out. I want to just like game over, get reset.
So it's a game, you guys. It's a game. So there's this movie called The Game with Michael Douglas. It's fantastic. Have you seen it? It was in the 90s.
I have seen that movie.
Okay. And he doesn't know what's happening to him, but it's really fascinating. And things are starting to go awry for him, and everybody knows stuff but him. And so there's an idea behind this, that if we have the veil of forgetfulness and we don't know all of these things, as we awaken and we remember, we start to choose better. We would be totally overwhelmed. And like you said, it's kind of ruins the whole game.
Right.
Because we really are here to be in this present moment,
Right.
not be in our past lives. So it almost would be ineffective if we knew all of them at birth. Although I have talked to children that have past life memories as children.
They're probably more available than we are as we get older and we become more skeptical, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had my goddaughter said to her mom, "Mommy, I was your daughter before, blah 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 blah," and said all these things.
If Michelle was here right now, she straight up, shout out to my friend Michelle and Paz, you know Michelle from GGT. Michelle, her son's Paz and Soul have both said stuff to her that's so eerily specific.
Wow.
And like, I guess she went to a park and there was a duck and she's like, he was, because I guess when you're young, that's the point of the story.
So you're more
young
open.
people are more open, but they also don't have a word of anything. Like they might know a former life situation might be happening where they're getting a strong message, but he translated it as the duck was talking because they happened to be around some ducks.
Right.
And so he was like, well, the duck is telling me.
Oh yeah, so he had full intuition of
Yeah.
hearing the animals speaking, right?
Yeah.
And so our psychic centers are more open until someone's afraid
Mm.
or shames us,
Right.
or we're afraid. Because sometimes people, when they're children, they see the death of somebody before that happens and they're terrified and they don't want to share it. They think they caused it, right?
Like I will tell you that even us talking about this topic and when you say things like pagan and stuff,
Uh-huh.
it is a little trigger inside of me from the childhood that I was raised with, which is
Wow.
I was raised to believe that any talk of witchcraft, any talk of paganism was a sin. Like
Wow.
to even let your brain go there was a sin. That you were only to be Christ-like, you were only to be, you know, and it was such a limited view of the world, but it was so strong that it indoctrinated me to the point that
I
now as
understand
an
that.
adult man, having a talk on a great podcast with someone who understands this stuff, it does intimidate me a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's important, you know, when we have these triggers to make decisions that are true for us now, for our
Right.
soul, our spirit, right? Now that you can choose and to walk through it. And again, like I was like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit, past lives, just an excuse.
Mhm.
And then had it happen for me, you
Mhm.
know, and then it opened up my consciousness and it made so many things make more sense. And that's what helps you get through the fear. Like paganism as an example, it was an earth-based religion. So people associated with witchcraft. However, it wasn't necessarily spells people were doing. They were
Mhm.
going out there and they were praying for the harvest time.
Right.
It was very connected with the harvest and making sure everybody was alive and rain and these kinds of things, like the
Yeah.
natives pray for rain. And you can look at it like with that lens of that, oh, they're trying to manipulate the forces of God. That's not necessarily true. They're in a space of connecting with nature as a form of God, as a way to be godlike. And we have these indoctrinations from religions. I am no religious expert. I am not a person that's read I haven't read the Quran. I haven't read all these things, but I did read the Bible as a kid.
Mhm.
And I read a lot of Yogananda's material.
It's real page turner, huh?
Begets,
Begets.
Thou be thou,
Shall.
thou.
Sorry.
It was in there.
No disrespect. I'm not trying to belittle anything, but we all
It's
I
a
love
lot, right?
I love my Bible. We are at the church that I go to studies the Holy Bible, and that's where in the first 5 books of the Bible are called the Torah. You know, the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and it's the whole story of creation all the way to, like, you know, going through Egypt, getting all the slaves out and all that stuff. But I sometimes when we're studying, I will have these like I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a strong feeling to a connection to a certain story.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's valid.
I get the story of Joseph. You know, Joseph, who had 12 brothers, or he's one of 12, and he was his father's favorite, and the brothers hated him because of it. The dad gave him this like gorgeous coat, I guess. It's a coat of many colors. The whole
The dream
Jesus,
coat.
yeah, the
He
dream
was the
coat.
first rainbow wearer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was original. Anyways, one thing leads to another. They trade him into slavery, but he ends up making good and landing up at the top right side of the Pharaoh. And so when it comes time for the Israelites to be freed from Egypt, head to their promised land and get out through the big Exodus, and they confront their old brother Joseph, but he's now so much older that they don't recognize him.
Right.
But it's a real lesson about forgiveness, about the message of God, and how even though his own family sold him into slavery, he could forgive them. And then he also said something about take my bones with you, because, and that was the whole like point of yesterday's sermon, was that just because you don't know that something's able, just because something is not possible in your life, and this goes to exactly what you're saying. Joseph said, you know, take my bones with you, because I want to be there when this thing is going to happen.
Right.
And it's kind of like a not so subtle way of saying that future, you know, reincarnation exists, because you know, and then it also talks about like all the shoulders on which we stand, you know, like women, like you're talking about the suffragettes earlier. It is because their fight, there were women who died before 1920 who fought for the right to vote.
Absolutely.
They didn't get to see the reality that they were fighting for, but they were the ones who painted that picture, that fiction that at the time was fiction that became reality. And so maybe if whenever you think about like Mariah saying that the patriarchy is something that really strikes a chord in her, and I can relate to that a lot. Like there's something very deep inside me that's a feminist. And also with the gay thing, I wonder if this former life situation is true, if I spent a lot of time as a woman, you know, like, or
Perhaps.
as a, you know, more comfortable on the feminine side, or who knows, you know, like it's all, I don't know, like how do you prove any of this stuff?
This is the thing, is only by your own experience. So I always approach everything a little bit like a scientist. You know, I'll read about something, I'll check it out, I fact check, I go within, and I'm like, does this resonate for me? Is it helpful for me? And so the past life thing really started to help me to overcome certain areas and issues that were blocks for me, that they were repetitively blocks no matter what I did. And so I wanted to mention that Yogananda wrote an amazing book called The Second Coming of the Christ, where he took the text from the Bhagavad Gita, I think the Buddhist text, and the Bible, and showed the same stories over and over and over again.
Parallels.
And he talks about reincarnation, and Yogananda brought yoga to the West, and so he was prolific in that way, because at that time that wasn't happening in the United States. And so this East versus West, or the merging of these two cultures, has brought a lot of these teachings to people. But to not get lost in the past, I think, is one of the most important things. Because some people go like, I was this famous person in a past life, and all I just want to tell you is about that. And it's like, you're missing the point. What did you learn? How
braggadocious to say I was a famous person.
Right.
I mean, I do think I was Jesus. But that was just because I love being shirtless and working on my abs.
And you really like those Birkenstocks.
I'm sorry. I loved a good toga. I hung out with all the homosexuals, and you know, Jesus famously hung out with the prostitutes, homosexuals, the lepers. He was there as the like a beacon of hope and light in all of their lives. So that does, I mean, it really does resonate. I don't think I was Jesus. In fact, from the era that I do think you were not Jesus.
I'm just going to tell you
Jesus.
right now.
How many times have I just yelled my own name on Jesus Christ? No, but during that turn of the century, the Gilded Age, which I do really connect to, I don't actually think I was like a wealthy landowner or something. I think that I was poor. And I think I worked as a servant or something in the home of a wealthy person. I was surrounded by beauty that I could see but couldn't have. And to this day, my, what did you call it? Loop is financial security.
Okay, so this is a great thing to talk about. For the viewers out there that maybe this is a brand new subject, I want you to consider some patterns in your life that you see throughout this lifetime. And you might go, well, it had to do with my family of origin, and you could see it that way. But maybe there's something that you're like, you know what? This has nothing to do with how I was raised. I just have this pattern, this insecurity, this block, this fear of money, power, maybe abusive power, maybe even being abused or being abusive, these kinds of things. Why am I this way? Why does the person have an addiction? Sometimes you need to go way beyond this life to think about this, because there's trauma. So apparently this kind of trauma gets stored kind of in what they call the Akashic Records. The records are of everything that's ever happened in our soul, and it's like a library in another dimension, and psychic people can read the Akashic Records. It's fascinating. So an intuitive person like myself, I can tune in and I can just instantly kind of read the person and see what their patterns are and
Mhm.
potentially some past lives. So I'll say very lightly, do you feel an affinity to eating this way and doing these things and dressing this way? And they go, yeah, it's so weird. There's nobody in my life like this. I don't know why I'm obsessed with this kind of culture or this way of being. And then I go, do you think you might have had past life there? And they'll go, yeah, I kind of do. And people that you would think would never be into this, they live a regular life, they're in the matrix, they're running a company or what have you, they're working in that way, and they're like, they have tons of recalls of past lives. There's a really well-known guy named Edgar Casey, and Edgar Casey was a reader, I believe in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And what he was a sleep channel. Okay, Edgar Casey did 14,000 health readings where people would come and he would lay down and he would sleep and he would tell them what was wrong with them and what they needed.
In his sleep?
Yeah, he was a trance channel and he would tell them what they needed to heal themselves. And his wife ended up after a long journey in this.
I mean, if you charge for that, that's a great gig.
Yeah, she was there.
Leave the money there. I'm going to bed.
She was there writing all the things out for him, and
gosh.
they documented all of this, and then it became the ARE Association, and that association has all of that information, and you can actually use it for health, and they have products. Well, he also discussed past lives and read past lives. And I met someone that said he was the reincarnation of him, David Wilcox. David Wilcox is a speaker on ufology and has been on all kinds of TV shows and circuits. And there's pictures of him with his current people online. You can find this if you guys want to look up David Wilcox and see if he was Edgar Casey. You see his photo here and Edgar Casey, and then different people, his best friend, his wife, these different people. Look at the photos yourself. It's uncanny. And then what he does in this life, he's not a trance channel, but he's speaking about healing. He's speaking about all these other things.
Do you think people that have had more former lives are in this life more like connected or spiritual to, like, more connected to the understanding of their former lives?
Maybe.
Like, I have more skepticism, so maybe I'm new. Like maybe this is my
maybe
first
you're
life.
not as old as soul. Like I think some people have lived a lot of lifetimes. I'm a pretty old man. I'm an ancient soul. And I've had people tell me that. It's not like, oh, I'm an old soul and it's the ego thing. You kind of feel, okay, you might be an old soul if you feel like this. I hope this is my last lifetime. Oh my God. Like human beings, like ice cream, like hugs, but this is a lie. I was like, really want to do non-physical reality. Okay, sex is great, but all right, I'm done with all the trauma and stuff. You might be an old soul if you have this enormous amount of information that you have accessible to you that's beyond what you read.
So then I might, you know what some things I'm hearing here, and I kind of like that I'm doing this with the two of you, because you're like you're the sage, she's the apprentice because she's very interested, and I am like the guy out. Are you guys? Wait, what's happening in there? Are you guys sure? I'm outside the window, the skeptic. I'm tapping, like, hey, can you guys hear me? Because here I have an idea. But I am watching and I'm listening, and so a lot of times when you have an unexplainable attraction to something, or when you have especially if it's not within your family context, like how many parents have said this? I've got two kids, they were raised in the same way, they're like a year apart, or they could even be twins, and they're so different.
Oh yeah.
Like they're so different. Like my sister and I got this our whole lives. Like, how are these two siblings? And I wonder sometimes if there is some, like, if there's a former life, whatever, you know, what we're talking about. Sorry, I don't want to say if, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I am still a skeptic.
No, it's fine. However you want to talk about it.
I'm trying to say open-minded. If this is the case, and we do get reincarnated, and we do have multiple times on this planet, and that does help me understand how different children can be from each other within the context of the same family.
Oh yeah, like, there's so many things it explains.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I think that it explains. It also explains like extreme gifts of children, like child prodigies. And I've read stories of people that were little and would channel other languages.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You need to look at this YouTube video. This is the plug.
Okay.
The YouTube video is called 20 Kids with Rare Conditions, or 20 Rare Children's Conditions, whatever, that prove we're evolving as humans. We're still, and they're like superhero level stuff. And one of them is this little boy, this little tiny human man, like he's not even maybe 5 years old. And he was on a piano playing like Mozart. And there is just no way that's like, they call him a advanced savant.
Oh,
And
wow, that's next level.
Yeah, and they say that savant is like, it's a form of autism, I guess, and there's different forms of it where sometimes it's mathematical. Another one of the kids was like 5 and already in college. I guess I'm exaggerating, he was like 10, but still. He was already graduated high school before he was in the double digits of numbers.
Wow.
And now he's doing some scientific program, and he's just 18.
Right, and so science will discuss these things and talk about the brain, and they'll break it down to that there's something going on in their brain that maybe they access more percentage of their brain than the average person.
Yeah, because we only use supposedly like what, 5 or 10% of our brain
at best, right? However,
the rest of mine, I am saving shoes and sweaters.
Like, you look cute. But the thing is, it's like, this doesn't explain for a lot of these other phenomena. And psychic children and children that recall their past lives. Oh my God, check that out. I don't have a video that I can cite right now, but you do a little search and check out psychic children and children that talk about their past lives. Yeah. And the first, it's very well documented. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I just remembered because some of it was that these kids were tuned into something beyond what is available to an average child. One of these kids was Chinese. It was the very first one in the report. And he had blue eyes, which was unusual. There are sometimes infants born with blue eyes and then they transition. But just to be Chinese and have blue eyes, period, is almost rarely happens. And then they just discovered as a little baby that like he would squint a lot outside. But then inside, he was just very comfortable and happy. And I can't remember exactly what happened. Something happened where the lights went out, but he still was able to keep going. And then they started to test him. He found out as he got older, he could read, write completely in darkness. He is listed now by the Guinness Book of World Records as the first ever human to be able to literally see in the dark. And so I mean,
okay, so like that again.
You're literally watching video of him. I mean, I always feel like it'd all be smoke and mirrors. Like if I wasn't there, I don't know.
Right.
But it does look convincing.
But why not?
And so whether it's past life or it's just some absolute very rare condition that gives that person that ability to do that, we don't know. But when you go out into the vastness of the universe
like
and
X-Men.
Think about
mutants,
to think that this is our only life, you're born with all of these attributes, all of these thoughts, all of these beliefs that come into play that are very different from your family of origin. Where on earth does that come from? I mean, there's no explanation unless you're extremely well read and you're completely watching the media as a little tiny kid. But if you didn't have that experience and it's coming from within you, there's no other explanation of this. There really isn't. And I think it opens the doors for thinking too about what you're doing. If you know you got to come back and do this damn thing again, if you don't deal with that person that you have an issue with, you go, am I good with them? Like if I died, would I have done what I was supposed to do with that person? Only my side of the street. So I don't have to see them again. Like, this is what I think about. There's some people like, I want to freaking see you again. So I'm going to make sure I do my part. If you didn't do your part, I'm not coming back for you unless I absolutely have to. You're going to do it with somebody else that's like me. I'm good. I did my thing. Right. But on the other side of it, is there a way that you can transcend something and you feel more free and you feel more whole and you're no longer afraid, you're no longer having some of these conditions? Why are some people born without limbs? Why are some people born with extreme health conditions or poverty or wealth? Wealth is considered a karma. Fame is considered a karma in the Hindu philosophy because there's so many things that come with
Is that good or bad?
It's a
Is
karma.
fame a punishment for bad karma, or
it's
is
a
fame
karma.
a blessing for good karma?
Karma is not good
Because I
or
feel
bad.
like it might be a punishment.
It's not good or bad. We think of it as good or bad. It is not. It is cause and effect.
Okay, so what kind of behaviors lead to fame if it's karmic?
Okay, so example, let's say in this life, someone's quite famous, but in their past life, they were in prison. No one, and they died in total isolation and no one knew their name. So karmically, they're going to come back into this life and they're going to work as this well-known person. Everyone's going to know their name, and they're going to have the opposite experience of that other life to balance out the pain and the suffering of nobody knowing their name, that having no power, and they're going to practice having power of being known. So that's why I say it's a karma. The more power you have, the heavier is the crown. And that's what I mean by the karma, that the more wealth you have, the more there is to manage. It doesn't mean it's bad.
Heavy is the head that wears the drag queen crown.
Yes. So, I mean, we are actually absolutely just getting started on this subject, but there's a couple other things I need to do with the show. So I definitely think I may want to talk more about it and do like a part 2 at some point.
I was actually going to suggest that. And when you do, have Michelle on.
Oh, okay.
And have her bring pause. That is, when she tells a story, it gives me goosebumps.
That's awesome.
Like these life, these kids that are tapped into their former lives.
Yeah. So Mariah, anything else you want to share before we go?
Just real quick, what was the other one? What was the other one? Life.
I'll just say Scotland 1500s.
Okay.
Okay. I also see Hindu 100% saw the dot on the head with the crystal thing, and saw really fancy clothes like that. Like I just looked at you and you were like it was like a beautiful female with long hair and the whole thing. I just instantaneously just saw that. How does that feel? You okay?
I feel lightheaded.
Okay, there she goes. So that she gets these, because you're empathic and energy sensitive, it seems like when truth or things that resonate bring things up, you get a symptom.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So let's hope that was a beautiful lifetime for you. Right? Yeah. I mean, if we have so what is a beautiful lifetime? Thinking about that. We're surrounded by love. We have everything we need. We get to grow. We get to have wonderful connections with people.
We love ourselves.
We love ourselves. We get to thrive. And that's a beautiful lifetime.
You belong.
And it's not necessarily whether you're famous or rich or these things, but that you have what you need in this life, and you feel good about your life. You wake up and you feel good. And look, we're going to go through some storms, and it's going to be tough sometimes. And having a bigger understanding of like, maybe this is not the only life. And that if I think more vastly, this could help me get through this moment. And maybe that's why I have this pattern that's so painful. What can I choose differently today that maybe I didn't choose in another lifetime? And then therefore you overcome that pattern. You balance it. That's what the karma is. It's all about balance. And so when someone comes into our life that we have an immediate aversion to, chances are they were with us in a past life. They did us wrong. We did them wrong. Or we meet somebody and we have an immediate love, like love at first sight, and the passion is there. Chances are they were your former lover. Chances are, whether you got to consecrate it or not, the attraction's there. That's so powerful. It can't even be explained here. And they may not even be your type. You're like, whoa, that's not even my type. It's something beyond that. Or you meet them and you know everything about them without ever talking to them about these things. So you're just like, yep, I know you by that trait, the way you hold your fork, the way you complain about this, the way you laugh. I know you, man.
It does explain sometimes why you can't. I mean, there is attraction that you just can't explain. Like there's some reason this person, I always chalk it up to pheromones. Like somewhere along the way in evolution, like our little monkey tribes were hanging out in the same place, smelling the same kinds of sweat. And now we found each other again as humans. I do believe in evolution, of course. I believe that it's all within the process of the universe, like the God. And even this, you can have, like, if the ultimate goal is to be one with God, maybe that's just another way of saying like heaven, you know?
Yeah.
And so people that think that there's an afterlife in heaven might get it, but just after a few more rounds here.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I have to add this just because it came up really
please
quick
do.
when you said the past life, because I met someone in Europe who actually lives here, and when I met her, it was like, and this it felt super platonic, but it felt like there was something in the past that wasn't platonic. And I kind of feel like that her and I were never able to be together in a past life that we shared because we were both women. And like we found each other in this life to share like the most like soul twin flame friendship that I've ever had.
Amazing.
But
And
it's,
so
it's
it
definitely like a
completes it.
friend soulmate thing now.
Well, that's interesting. It's not a
Yeah.
sexual experience, but you get to have that connection.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing to talk about. It doesn't always match the exact scenario. So if you weren't able to be together in that life,
Yeah.
in this life, you are as friends and you have this amazing connection. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual for it to correct what you weren't able to have then.
Yeah.
And that's what's fascinating about the universe. It's not direct, like, oh, I was a soldier and I'm going to be a soldier in this life. Not necessarily. Maybe in this life, you're not a soldier.
Or you design soldier clothes.
Yeah. Or you
Like,
date
never know.
soldiers.
You totally date a soldier. Exactly.
check, and check. I know I didn't design any soldier clothes.
I was like, I for sure was
So-
here, but I was definitely on the design team.
Awesome.
I
So you
wasn't
guys,
fighting.
there's so much more to cover on this. I want to move a little bit towards the next part of the show, and I'm going to do a little sound bowl, sound bath briefly, and then I'm going to end with my reading, my card cam,
Do you
and
want me to
do
stay
a
for
weekly
this?
reading. Yeah, how about for this, and then after that you can move about your day. Okay, so I'm just gonna have everybody take a nice deep inhale. I'm gonna be playing my crystal bowl, and I'm just doing this very spontaneously. And exhale, and just go to your natural breath. And the idea of this is just a quick reset. I do sound baths, and I have one coming up next week, June 15th. At Breathe Woodland Hills at 7 p.m. You can go to their website, breathewoodlandhills.com, and I'll be doing this there. But today, this is a little sample. Okay, so just consider it an intention that you want to have. And it might just be to relax and let something go and enjoy the rest of your day. Taking a nice deep inhale and exhale, and allowing that sound to just reset you. This is a super quick one, but just moves you into a space of calm and peace and hopefully clarity. And that's a little mini sound bowl, sound bath. This was on my little fuzzy comforter here, so the sound wasn't as loud as it would normally be, but I was able to play it and share that with you guys and give you a little sample. How do you feel?
Good. It is very relaxing. It's a
I feel
soothing
fresh.
sound.
All right.
Like I just took
Cool.
a power nap or something.
Yes, that's what I was feeling for you, Mariah, because we have some more work to do. I was like, we can't make her go out too far. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is a reading, and I'm just going to share really quickly about it, and then we're going to cut to the cards. Okay, everybody, it's reading time, and I'm going to do a group general reading for the week of June 14th, 2022, and I'm going to choose from and pull from my Archangel Tarot deck by Doreen Virtue. Okay, everybody, this is a reading for the week of June 14th, and this is for, I'm going to say, abundance and love. And it's a general reading, and it's not gender specific, although there may be genders in the cards. We have male and female energy within us. And so that's what those cards may mean. And there may be some timing here. All right, I'm going to shuffle a little bit more. Woo, the cards are jumping. I see one that pops out and another. That one was bringing, the Emperor and the Queen of Water. Okay, for love, that's very interesting because that is the masculine power and the feminine power within and without. And so the Emperor is, I mean, he's not playing, he's Archangel Michael, yo. I don't know if you can see it with the light shining on there. There you go. He's a very powerful angel, Archangel Michael. And this is all about organization and logic. This is about benefic leadership with the masculine energy. And so this is about making changes and doing things with that aspect. It's in the past position. So it's funny, we were talking about patriarchy on the show today. And so the Emperor is the patriarchal power that we all are living in, and that's moving away into the feminine power, and then the balance of those two aspects. The Queen of Water is empathetic and tender, intuitive, open-hearted, loving. And so in relationships, this is about balancing both of these energies. And I also feel like something new is going to come about. Maybe a new person or a relationship that moves to another level where there's more balance with the masculine and the feminine within that dynamic of the doing and the receiving, of the giving and the receiving, of the dominant energy of the masculine power and the more inward, receptive, intuitive side of the feminine. And when reading this in business, also, this is about the balance of giving and receiving. And so there may be, oh my God, I've got all these big decisions I need to make. I need to really figure out how much money I want to bring in, but I want to trust my heart and my spirit and my intuition as to how to make those choices, as opposed to just making it with logic. So you've got logic and intuition in balance here, which is fantastic. And the outcome is justice. Oh, that's fantastic. So with the sword, Archangel Raguel is bringing great clarity and justice in relationship. This could be the end of a cycle with a person or some pattern that you've had in relationships, and it is now coming into justice. The light is coming in, and this is about fair decisions. Okay, do what you know is right. Stand up for your beliefs. This is so clear for reading for love. This is not a time to just, back off and go with the flow. This is like, boom, we're going to make a decision here. And it's going to be from a place of balance of the masculine and the feminine. And if you have something with money that's coming up for you, this is the ability to use logic, which both cards are surrounding the intuitive here, to make that decision through logic and really the best path for you. But really trust your heart in the middle of that. So it's like a heart sandwich with the logic on either side and the outcome being very strong and clear mentally, but also the balance. And normally in this card, you've got the balances and in the scales in the card. They don't show that in this one, but they have pillars. And the pillars, I also believe, are both of these cards. So we've got the pillars of logic and intuition, of masculine and feminine energy, of going outside and taking care of things and making things happen, as well as going within and trusting that more inward, creative, intuitive process to make our decision, and swift change happening. I think there's going to be sudden shifts in matters of the heart and with money, things just coming in that have been delayed. Just gonna be like, oh, it's clear. This is what I'm doing. We're moving forward. We're putting that to rest. That's done. And I'm going here. And this is the outcome, is things working out really great if you are balanced with these two energies. So if you're having a hard time right now, then go back to that and say, am I being too logical, too masculine, too pushing myself too much? Or am I being too emotional, too sensitive, really not making a decision because I'm so emotional and I'm not balanced? Then you go to this card and you go, okay, when I'm in perfect harmony with both of these parts of myself, within, without, my relationships and my abundance are flowing, and giving and receiving are two of the same energies. So I'm going to do little prayer hands, and that's the reading for the week. Thank you all for joining me this week on my show. And if you would like to book a private reading with me, please go to my website at angelicaperman.com and follow and subscribe us on YouTube at Mod Pod Studios, and please hit the little notification bell so you will know every time this show is on. I want to thank you for all your support of liking and commenting on our videos. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments section of the YouTubes or in our live chat. And you can follow me on Instagram at Angelica Perman and the Sound Empress. Have a beautiful week, and just remember that by trusting and following your intuition and focusing on your healing, you can go from traumatized to triumphant. I love you all. Have a beautiful week. Mwah.
Feel it, I have it, I must not give up but get more. I saw it, I said it, I will not regret it, no longer be weak or play small.